What are your thoughts and opinions on Lysithea? And we are back, and luckily Leo Whitefang is here to greet us when we wake up. As for the chapter itself, on turn 1 we're introduced to a problem that will be very, very reoccurring throughout part 2. Claude and Byleth spawn in an area that's not very kind to them. Luckily we can just move them to the left a little bit, since they are flyers, because I'll reclass them to that in part 1. However, you may have noticed, Lysithea isn't in the map yet, and Claude gets one-rounded and doubled by literally everything. Luckily, I can use Claude's ability, Fallen Star, to guarantee that an attack will miss. So I go fight this guy with Fallen Star, and since Lysithea's reinforcement is a zone-based thing, this guy is actually right on the zone that I use Fallen Star on. And since he's in a corner, no other unit can attack me, so this is actually a really convenient thing, because if I couldn't use Fallen Star here, I would pretty much be screwed. And then Lysithea spawns in, and then the map is very easy, since even though I do suffer some misfortune with the guys with the silver bows, nothing some divine pulses can't fix. However, that's not the end of my misfortune. Because Ignatz and Lorenz spawn on the right side of the map, and nobody's there to really help them because Lysithea's at the bottom and she needs to take a couple turns to take out the boss, Ignatz and Lorenz unfortunately bite the dust. Very sad, but luckily after Lysithea defeats the boss we can always just do this to avert any guilt we may have. And now that we're back at the monastery again, let's just quickly reestablish everything from part 1. If you want more details, go watch part 1, I'll be much more in depth there, but pretty much, right, I'm still gonna be getting stat boosters from the Amiibo Gazebo, I'm still gardening as you can see in the clip, and yep, and I'm still, even though it's like a Lysithea solo, units can still do stuff into Lysithea like dance or gambits. You know, Lysithea will be the only combatant doing 99.99% of tasks, but you know, sometimes it's just convenient for Hilda to dance for her. You know? Alright, but of course, do remember to like, comment, and subscribe. If you like what you see, it really helps out on the channel. The last video got a bunch of likes and comments, which I'm very grateful for, and it boosted it in the algorithm probably since it got like 20k views. And of course, if you like this one and you didn't see the last one, go watch that. And if you like that, maybe go watch some other videos. I also have some other videos about Lysithea if you want to watch those. And now let's just fully get back into this. So this month we get back on that grind and we finally max out Lance rank, which is so good, because you know I was trying to raise that all throughout of part 1, but it's like I never raised her Lance rank in other runs, so it was the slowest to get up, and of course it's a Bane, so it took even longer, but it's finally, after all of part 1 and grinding this month, it's done, it's over, and then I move on to bows and gauntlets, and later I'll do swords and axes, and those will be so much easier to actually do since those weapons have magical weapons. I don't know why lances were left out of the magical weapon thing. Apparently you can get one in like Hubert's Paralog, but I don't have access to that obviously. And now let's get on to the actual chapter. So ladies and gentlemen, I'm gonna be frank with you, I gave her the DLC items that increase her movement by 2, because dear God, this chapter, you need to be in so many places at once, you need to stop them from, you know, getting to the main thing, from getting to the point where they can capture the castle, then you have to go to the side to help the swordsmen, make it so there aren't infinite reinforcements, and until that point there are actual infinite reinforcements, and Lysithea is a magical unit, so she can obviously run out of that compared to weapons that have, you know, much more uses. So eventually I fail, but then I come up with this pretty clever, I think, turn 1 strategy. So I have Linhardt, who I got in part 1, you know, I didn't mention getting him in part 1, but I did, for this very specific chapter. So I warp down Lysithea, have her, you know, nail the guy guarding the ballista, so the swordsman can get to that later, because in case you don't know, the swordsman will never actually attack enemies, so if that guy's blocking the point and he's not dead, well, it sucks to be you. And then I canto all the way back. Thyrus actually allows me to attack from far away, so I can canto back, and then I Dance of the Goddess with Byleth, and then I destroy the enemies there, and eventually I get into position to actually kill enemies on the left side, and I do all of this in turn 1, and freeing that space on the right side later lets the swordsman actually go down, trigger the point, and from that point it's just, you know, your classic Wrath Vantaging. So this was a very hard clear, I had to think a lot to actually do that turn 1 strategy to, you know, make it so the swordsman actually eventually gets there, but after that Wrath Vantage sets the whole place on fire, and you know what? Ladies and gentlemen, even though they're retreating, you can never pass up an opportunity to get bow rank, especially since Lysithea got the magic bow this chapter, but eventually, you know, we go in, Lysithea kills the boss or whatever his name is, I don't know, that guy that dies in every route of Three Houses, and that's this chapter. And of course, if here's how she's looking by the end of the month. Of course, you can actually add a 2 to all of those stats you just saw, since this month I unlocked the secret shop, and since this is the, you know, Lysithea solo, I give all of the stat boosters to, that's right, Lysithea. And then, you know, I go and I grind more gauntlet rank, and this month I actually remember you can do tea parties, which is a very easy way to raise charm. There's been like a month between me recording part 1 and part 2, so I forgot some things, but don't worry, we're getting our tea on. As for the chapter itself, I get the bolt axe, but here's the thing, this chapter, it's just a kill boss map, and it's a big open lava field, so what I can do after like getting the bolt axe, I can just kind of go to the left and use the world famous Dark Spike spell to, I don't actually even remember if I used Dark Spikes, I probably did, but this guy, he dies, and that's the chapter. Pretty easy. And of course, here's how she's looking at the end of the month. This month, Lysithea wraps up everything having to do with classes, so that is one goal of the run achieved, every class is done, every skill obtained, very nice. And then of course, she maxes out her gauntlet rank, thus getting us Gauntlet Fair, which will be, or Fist Fair, whatever, who cares, and that will be very important later, wink wink nudge nudge. And then of course she starts working on axes, which is now very easy since we got the bolt axe last chapter. But when it comes to the chapter itself, this is another one where it's very inconvenient that Claude and Byleth are force deployed. So of course first Lysithea goes down to try to get rid of the little reinforcement base they have set up there, and then who else but Archeon comes back and tries to rain on everyone's parade and tries to, you know, attack Claude and Byleth, so that I have to go back up and make sure I destroy enough enemies each turn as to where those two don't get attacked. But after that, Lysithea moves left to start working on Ferdinand's little posse, and this goes exactly how you would expect it to. Like, what can Ferdinand even do to Lysithea at this point? Nothing, really. However, the problem comes with his partner, Lysithea, or I think her name is, I'm gonna be real, does anyone in the Fire Emblem fandom community or whatever even care about, like, this girl and the dude that dies in every route of Three Houses that are Edelgard's little minions? I don't think so, but that's besides the point. Her Gambit actually pulls Lysithea down, and then she gets completely annihilated, so, you know, that's fun. That was a Divine Pulse. I was thinking, you know, maybe if I held off on destroying her for a turn and just let her use her Gambit, I could destroy some other enemies, get some more EXP, but obviously that didn't work out. But after Lysithea got owned, I just went in, I initiated the attack instead, she died, and then that was that. And of course, here's how she's looking at the end of the month. Now with maxed charm after all the tea parties we did, and her magic is getting very close to 91, which is the cap. This month I decided to take on Claude's dragon, since, you know, fighting dragons is a fun thing to do in video games, and it was actually very annoying because he can seal magic if he hits you, so I ended up having to use the Levin Sword a lot. He was also very strong, so I had to keep going out of range, drinking elixirs. It wasn't hard, since he doesn't move, so you can just go out of range, drink an elixir, but it did take a long time. As for the chapter itself, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. So of course I try to go down and destroy Bernedetta first, so, you know, I don't get shot by a Ballistician, or Ballista doesn't get shot by a Ballistician, so, but then it turns out that triggers the Blue Lions to move, whatever their little group is called, and instead of moving towards the Black Eagles, you know, the people that Dimitri really hates, they move up towards, who else but Claude and Byleth, not even Lysithea, they just move past Lysithea, so then I have to reset a few times to make sure they don't get destroyed, and eventually I find out, here's what I find out, ladies and gentlemen, that there's a mountain to the left that you can put flyers on, and since there aren't really enemy flyers, you can just camp them there, and they can just never be attacked, so I put them there. But here's the thing, even after being inaccessible to literally any other unit on the map, the Blue Lions still don't go for the Black Eagles, they still go for Claude and Byleth, even though they can't be reached. So a bunch of them just start piling up there, and they just wait there. So after I, you know, annihilate Dimitri, I just kind of let that pile up for a while. Eventually, like, Sylvain and Felix just end up chilling there. And I go up, and it's very fun, because since they literally can't do anything, I equip my EXP gem, camp next to Byleth to get her personal skill activated where I get more EXP, and just take them all out, one by one. Very smart, very cool, very epic enemy AI. Good job, IS. And then I travel downward, and unfortunately I do not get to punch out Edelgard this time. I end up just having to destroy her with a spell. Boo-hoo. but at least she proved that her forces are smarter than the Blue Lions. Rest in peace, Dimitri, I guess. By the end of this month, she has capped luck and capped res, so things are looking pretty good. This month, Lysithea manages to cap her axe rank, meaning only swords and bows are left. As for the chapter itself, Claude being deployed once again makes everything much more complicated than it needs to be, mostly because he spawns on the top side of the map, where no one can reach him, and I can't put him out of the range. I can't just go defeat the Ballistician with him, because this is a Lysithea solo, and doing combat with Claude would be bad, and I only did Falling Star in that one chapter because I needed it to make Lysithea spawn. So, here's the thing. I gotta go beat the Death Knight before the enemies get tired of Nader's men, and Claude gets destroyed. This would be easy if I just did Darkflyer Stride go kill him, but punching people is funnier, so I do make her a War Cleric this map. So I run up, do enemy phase, since the enemies can't really do significant damage to Lysithea at this point, and it takes a while to get there. One more turn and Claude would have been destroyed, but eventually we do manage to Aura Knuckles the Death Knight, and Claude is saved, and this isn't even going to be the worst instance of this happening, so these solos can be tricky when you gotta deploy other units. And by the end of this month, she has capped Strength, and finally the 91 cap for Magic. That was one of the original goals of the run, so now really all we have left to do is to cap swords, and cap bows, and of course beat the game, but this 91 magic, wow. Do you think that's a bit overkill? This month, Lysithea manages to cap her sword and bow rank, meaning we are completely done with weapon ranks for the rest of the run. This chapter is another one where Byleth and Claude pain my soul, because flying monsters spawn in the back and there's really no good place to hide them, so for the first time in the entire run, I am forced to use one of the core mechanics of the game, where you use a gambit to keep a monster to have a specific unit in mind only, and only attack them. So I use that for the first time in the run, and eventually Claude and Byleth are safe, so after all those annoying flying beast from behind reinforcements are dealt with, I have a thought, an idea. You know, using magical knuckles and magical weapons is fun, but what if for the rest of the run, for all the major bosses, what if I just went bare knuckle? So for this, ladies and gentlemen, Dark Spikes is cringe, Magic is cringe. Here is Lysithea's boxing match with the Death Knight. She lives one encounter on 1 HP, but eventually she does manage to bring it back and punch him to death. No weapons, no nothing. And then of course, you know, I could just run up and bop Hubert the same way, but you know what? I have never actually beaten this chapter without warp skipping it, because it's just annoying with all the reinforcements, but I already killed all the reinforcements, and my unit is pretty much immune to being killed by the enemy. And so, a genocide occurs, Lysithea just kills everyone in N-Bar, so, that's what you get for starting this war, Edelgard. Hope you're happy, until eventually she does roll up on Hubert and box him as well, and that's the chapter. The next chapter immediately begins, and the entire thing is just Claude, Byleth, red enemy range, and I really can't destroy enough enemies on one turn to make that not the case. I really try, I charge right in to try to fight Petra on turn 1, but as Fire Emblem Three Houses players know, Petra is one of the few units in the game that can actually make your other units very unhappy with their lives. Let's just leave it at that. So eventually I end up deploying Flame and using a Dance of the Goddess to just get, so I can like rescue down Lysithea after she kills someone, Dance of the Goddess, so I can destroy 3 enemies in 1 turn. So all 4 of these guys have just a tiny little space where they can actually exist, so Lysithea can actually do her thing. So that makes Petra easier to deal with. I eventually use a combat archer to be like, nope, get out of here, leave, and then I go down and annihilate Dorothea. So these units, just for the rest of the map, don't have a single thing to worry about. Oh my god, this is the last time this is a problem in the run, by the way. I said at the beginning of the video this would be a reoccurring problem. These 2 units being whatever, you get the deal by now. Anyway, so then Lysithea goes into the throne room, and I can just kind of walk up to Edelgard without worry, because Dedue has the enemies distracted until he dies, but that doesn't really matter, because the turn after he dies, we can just do this.
Lysithea, you and I are so alike. We could have walked the same path.
We're alike? You don't mean to tell me... It can't be.
Yet now we're at a crossroads. There's no turning back. Must we fight each other for the things we believe in?
That's exactly what's gonna happen. And I will defeat you, Edelgard. Don't want to do this. Don't want to do this. Don't want to do this.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is Edelgard beaten to death bare knuckle, and here's how Lysithea's looking after all that. Since all of her weapon ranks are capped, and most of her stats are capped, I spend this month gardening. Yup. For Shambhala, I turn her into a Grummer because I figured, you know, we may as well use maximum magic at least once this run, and it doubles her spell count, which will be very good if those infinite reinforcement robots become a problem, because one time I did this, they were a problem, they eventually became too much, ran out of spells, uh-oh, and of course the first thing we have to do in the map is go get Claude out of the top left corner so he can be reunited with us and Lysithea can fend off anything that may, you know, face him, and then she goes down towards the center, you know, just destroys all the guys there. It doesn't really matter. They really can't do much. One of the robots does spawn and attacks one of the non-Lysithea units, so that's a Divine Pulse, but after that's all dealt with, we can go towards the center room, use a door key, have Hilda dance. Hilda does get attacked by a turret. It depends on what you count as combat, but I just let it slide because the turret's dealt 0 damage to Lysithea anyway, so it's not like it detracted from the solo run to have Hilda get shot at, and it's just a turret you can't attack, so I don't count it. But if you do count it, then sue me. So Lysithea opens the door, gets danced for, and then just bloop, one-shots Thales, and that is Shambhala. Not that hard. Before we depart, we do one final tea party for good luck, and after that, let's just take a look at every skill we've gotten, every class we've mastered, and every stat we've gotten, and pretty much everything. It is worth noting that between Shambhala and this, Lysithea capped defense, and that's going to be actually very important for this next map. So with all that being said, let's get into the chapter. Ladies and gents, I'm gonna be real with you. You know it. I know it. Lysithea just vantaged her way through this chapter, like she did throughout part 1, where I sped up all the maps and you actually saw that. This video was structured in such a way where you saw that less, but you still know, right? Right? But here's the thing, I wanted the finale of this not to just be like, oh, one-shotting Nemesis with Luna, haha. I wanted to show off all the grinding I did, and all the stuff I got throughout my runs of Three Houses, so here's how this is gonna be. What you're about to see is only possible because she has Deathblow. I have the New Game Plus Battalion, King of Blue Lions or whatever, which gives her like plus 10 or plus 12 strength. She has 2 Fist Fairs, one from S plus Gauntlets and one from the class she's in, and all this means she's barely able to damage Nemesis. And she's barely able to not die to Nemesis's combat art because she has capped defense and capped HP, and she's on a defense tile, so she barely lives, and if like 2 more, and if like more than 2 hit in a row, or just 2 hit in a row, she's gone. So, ladies and gentlemen, here is the culmination of me playing Three Houses for like 300 hours, and using Lysithea for every single run. I hope you enjoy. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is a clear of Fire Emblem Three Houses Golden Deer Maddening that I assure you that you are not gonna find anywhere else. So this has been my Lysithea solo, or as the title of the video is to get more views, because I guess that's how YouTube works. Can you beat Three Houses Maddening with only Lysithea? No, because you need to use Claude Fallen Star once in like chapter 12. But other than that, yeah, you can. You can. So yeah, I really hope you enjoyed it. Obviously, Lysithea is my favorite Three Houses character, and now I have a video of me beating Maddening with just her. I took some feedback into account, like, hey, this video is sped up too much, so I edited this one a bit more precisely. So I hope y'all enjoyed that, and remember to like, comment, and subscribe if you like what you see, because it helps the channel, and this took a lot of effort. And oh, well, would you look at that? Claude and Lysithea are getting married. Oh, isn't that cute, after Lysithea had to stop him from getting one shot throughout the entire second half of this game. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, have a nice day. Bye-bye.